We are meeting after such a long break, so I thought it might be a good idea just to go over quickly the main points of vital education. This is the chapter we finished reading, but before we get into the conversations of the mother about it, let's just look at the key points. So, the nature of the vital, I'm sure everybody remembers, very despotic, tyrannish, desire based, holds all energy, nothing is impossible to it. But as it is guided by desire and not any higher ideal, that becomes a problem. So people try and please it because they feel that uh, they have to, the goal of life is happiness, and if they don't please the vital, happiness is considered actually living by one's desires. That's the general notion of happiness, to do as I please, not to live a disciplined life, to just fulfill every whim and fancy. That's generally largely considered happiness. And also, anybody wanting to go against it, the feeling is there that the nature, one is born with a certain nature and it can never be changed. So the mother says the happiness is not the aim, it is progress, to awaken to progressively to the truth consciousness, and that is true happiness. With progress comes true happiness. And she also talks about how, although it's very difficult, but it is not impossible to change one's nature. And many religions have given disciplines, but that works only to a certain extent, but it is not really transforming the vital. And then a key concept which she talks about, which is going to come back in the question answers also, is about the two opposite tendencies. She gives a hint, a clue, a guide of how to work on oneself, that one always carries the light and the shadow, two opposite tendencies. If there is a positive, there is almost the exact opposite of it in one's nature. And similarly, if there is a negative, there is an opposite of that as well in one's nature. So, to avoid elation and depression, and just like a scientist, to observe and to work on it. And that it should begin early. And two principal aspects, sensorial training she takes in this, because actually senses are the messengers which carry the information to the brain. And if there is a vital obstruction, a vital predilection, resistance, preference, the information gets distorted when it reaches the brain. So the whole interpretation, the reasoning just goes for a six. So it's very important to purify the vital and the nerve channels so that the correct message reaches the brain. And for that, a vital training of the senses is required. So I think that's why she doesn't put it under physical sensorial development. There she talks about the physical organs, but the actual functioning of the senses, their refining, their purification, she takes it up in the vital. And she mentions that there are, besides five senses, there are many more, 12 or even more, which were known to humanity, but these days are not very common, but one can develop them. And then she comes to the character developments about psychological health, beauty, harmony of the sensations, just as of the body, and to avoid degrading influences. So, there later on in her conversations, she has clarified, what kind of books, what kind of music, what to avoid, explained what the effect these things have, and why to be careful when exposing the children or oneself to it. And so the disciplines, she says, which kind of discipline the vital, generally sit upon it. And so the collaboration, or the happy collaboration of the vital, becomes almost impossible. So therefore, you might see that a lot of people who go into a very rigorous religious or moralistic discipline lose that glow, that vital energy, that impetus and to do things and become very, you know, kind of drained of that energy, dry. It shows on the in their whole demeanor. Talks about self-awareness, looking at one's various movements, power of observation, and then she talks about, but just to be aware is not enough. Will for progress has to be there. That has to be instilled and it can be inculcated, just like the muscles, by regular practice. And to work with the children or even with oneself through whatever methods, whether rational arguments or goodwill or sense of dignity, self respect, etc. etc. And she says, once the resolution is established, never to give up and to go till the end. So, to sum up, one must gain a full knowledge of one's character and then acquire control over one's movements in order to achieve perfect mastery and the transformation of all the elements that have to be transformed. That is also not the end. All will depend upon the ideal which the effort for mastery and transformation seeks to achieve. So, you will recall the Science of Living chapter began with aimless life is a miserable life, and then she established on the quality of the aim will depend the quality of your of your life. But yes, also the vital. So, if you train the vital, reform it, but for what? What is the aim? So that quality will also have an effect on the vital. So the value of the ideal is very important. And then she says that we will take up in mental education. So this was a summary of this chapter. Anything to ask, discuss, share before we proceed to the questions? Okay. So there is only one conversation directly that I could find on this chapter. Pooja, is that correct? Pooja has disappeared. Okay. Oh, Pooja, where is she?
Anuradhani, I have to say something.
Yes, please.
Um, Here, mother said कि we have, we have a light and shadow in our vital. Okay, and so in the mother by Sri Aurobindo, there is a passage. Should I read?
Yes, please.
Okay. Do not imagine that truth and falsehood, light and darkness, surrender and selfishness can be allowed to dwell together in the house of consecrated to the divine. The transformation must be integral, and integral, therefore, the rejection of all that withstands it. So, when we have within our light and shadow, that means we are not never transform
But that's the
anytime.
it's a yoga.
Matlab, I could not understand. Huh?
It's a yoga of transformation. Shravinda is also saying the same thing. He's
Okay.
not contradicting it. These two things cannot exist together. So if you say,
Mhm.
I meditated for so many hours, I had a beautiful experience, I had the vision of the mother, and then afterwards you just give in to all your desires and things like that, the dark element in yourself without working on it, that experience will not stay. You will not gain much from it. That is what he's saying, that the work of transformation requires that you eliminate the shadow. And what the mother is saying, that to begin this work, first you have to become aware of the shadow and you have to also become aware of the light. Because if you start self observing, you may get depressed. Oh, I've got this negative thing and that negative. That is not the aim. You have to see the negative like a scientist dispassionately, which will come to in the mental thing, this dispassionate attitude, and then work on it knowing that it hides a light. And same way, when you work on the light, you have to know you cannot sit back content. there is a shadow hiding behind it. So find it and offer it. That is the work of transformation.
Thank
So
you.
finally,
Okay.
do not exist together. Okay. I think Kirti wanted to say something. Kirti?
Nahi, Anuradha, I'm receiving everything.
Okay, okay, fine. Right. So who would like to start? Any
I can
volunteers?
begin.
Okay, Nishi. You can begin.
I'm just taking in it's a long question.
Yeah, this. So yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'll start with the question. In some ancient initiations, it was stated that the number of senses that man can develop is not five, but seven, and in certain special cases, even 12. Times have out of necessity
Certain.
developed certain races at certain times have, out of necessity, developed more or less perfectly one or another of these supplementary senses.
Senses. It's a typo. Right.
With a proper discipline persistently followed, they are within the reach of all who are sincerely interested in this development and its results. Among the faculties that are often mentioned, there is, for example, the ability to widen the physical consciousness, project it out of oneself so as to concentrate it on a given point, and thus obtain sight, hearing, smell, taste, and even touch at a distance. What are the names of these 12 senses? The names in the
Chaldean.
sorry,
Chal-
Didi?
Chaldean.
Chaldean. In the Chaldean tradition, they were in Chaldaic. In other traditions, in other languages, in Egypt, they were written in
Hi- hmm.
hieroglyphs. Each system has gave its names. I had a list of the names, not only the names, but also of what they represented, what kind of senses each represented, what kind of sense each represented. But it was a very long time ago. I don't remember them any longer. As I have said, there is in the field of things seen, felt, done at a distance by a concentrated projection of consciousness. For instance, one is in a room and due to an illness or an accident, one cannot move. Next to this room, there is another. Next to that, there is a sort of bridge. After the bridge, there are steps going down. And these steps go down a big studio in the middle of a garden. Now, the person laid up in the room wishes to know what's going on in the studio. He concentrates his consciousness and then extends it. So to say, truly, it is as though he extended it almost materially. And he goes along the whole way and reaches the studio. If he does this properly, he sees what there is in the studio, can hear what's going on, though he is not there himself. The body is lying in a bed in a room, but the consciousness is projected. It is a physical consciousness. It is not an inner state, for one sees physically, hears physically. If there are people in the room, one sees them. If they are speaking, one hears them speaking. Naturally, it is not from the very first day that one succeeds. It asks for a very rigorous discipline. It corresponds a little to the capacity which was developed in the Red India due to the condition of their life. I don't know how it is at present, but formerly they used to put their ear to the earth and they had so fine an ear that they could hear steps more than mile away. They heard the steps of those who were walking at a distance of more than 2 or 3 kilometers simply by putting their ear to the ground. Or take the dog, which, if given something to smell, finds the trail of the scent again. can follow it with its nose? Well, it is one kind of super sense. That is a sense that has reached such a degree of intensity and refinement that it can indeed feel what the ordinary sense does not feel. Can see at a distance, really see physically at a distance through walls. It is said that the blind develop a sense which enables them to feel an object at a distance. They do not see, they walk in darkness as in a black night, but they have a kind of sense of touch at a distance, a material contact due to which, long before touching the object, they know. For example, if there is a piece of furniture in their way, long before knocking against it, they feel it from a distance.
Mm. Yes.
I think
Anybody?
we discussed about it a little bit. It just seems so mysterious, mystical. But one other example I think that we discussed was like in Mahabharata,
Yeah.
Sanjay able to see and relay that. So I'm now able to relate that sense where he's able to extend his actual physical sense of seeing and hearing because he was also narrating what was being said.
By the way, this what she has described, one is in a room due to an illness. This is her own experience. When she was in France, there was a time when she was very ill. And this studio was an art studio because she was an artist, and all kinds of artists used to come to her house. So she was laid up in the bed, and this whole thing, the bridge and everything, this was in her house. And that's what she did. She projected and she was able to see what was happening in the studio and hear. There is another small passage which I found in another volume of the Mothers, where she's spoken a little more about the senses. If you are interested, we can go there or we can not go there, as you wish, about what these 12 senses are. She's described a little more. Besides seeing, hearing, she's talked about other senses also.
Let's read. It'll be nice to know a little more, no? Okay, bring in more clarity.
Okay. Oh, I'll have to do a search. Hmm. Okay, who wants to read? Kirti, you want to read this? What are the 12 senses?
What are the 12 senses? We are granted 5, aren't we? In any case, there is one other which precisely has a relation with consciousness. I don't know if you have ever been told this, but a person who's blind, for instance, who does not see, can become aware of an object at some distance through a kind of perception which is not touch, for he does not feel it, which is not vision, for he does not see, but which is a contact, something that enables him to make a contact without hearing, seeing, or touching. This is one of the most developed sense apart from those we habitually use. There is another sense, a sort of sense of proximity. When one comes close to a thing, one feels it as if one had contacted it. Another sense, which is also physical, puts you in touch with events at a great distance. It is a physical sense, for it belongs to the physical world. It is not purely mental. There is a sensation. Some people have a sort of sensation of contact with what is happening at a very great distance. You must not forget that in the physical consciousness, there are several levels. There is a physical, vital, and a physical mind, which are not solely corporeal. Foresight on the material plane is also one of the physical senses. We have then something that sees at a short distance, some, something that sees at a long distance, and something that sees ahead. This already makes three. There are sort of there are a sort of improvement of the senses we have. As for instance, hearing at a great distance, there are
Kirti, you are frozen. Kirti, we can't hear you and your video is frozen. Maybe if you switch off your video, the connection might be better. Okay, so these are sort of improvement of the senses we have. As for instance, hearing at a great distance. There are people who can hear noises at a great distance, who can smell at a great distance. It is a kind of perfecting of these senses. Okay. So, I mean, this proximity, though, I think all of us have experienced that you suddenly feel, somebody is very close, or sometimes you also feel somebody is staring at you and you turn around and that person actually is. So, these are also uh, all part of different senses, but we just say, oh, this happened, and we don't really work on it to develop it. Anything else, or shall we carry on?
Did we do all 12?
Sorry.
Did we do all the 12 senses?
She hasn't given. She said, "No, they were. I used to have the list, but
Oh, okay.
I don't no longer remember." Then she's just giving examples of other senses.
Okay.
So if you say five senses, so we know, and then if we include five others of, at a distance, that already becomes 10, like ability to touch things at a distance, to smell, to see, to hear.
So if you take the sixth sense and then you multiply by 2, then you get
Just
12.
say six, 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 10, and then this proximity, then about, what did she say? Something, yeah, the blind people, that's again, she says it's not touch, it is not hearing, it is not sight, it is something else. So that is there. And foresight at the physical level, when you can foresee material events happening. So there might be more than 12 ultimately. Okay, shall we go ahead? Ila, would you like to read this one?
Okay. Where do you want me to start from? In
In
children, the mind is?
Yeah, the question.
Okay. In children, the mind is not developed when they are small. Is this also true of the vital? No, the vital is much more developed than the mind. One second, I'm just going to make this a little bigger.
Bigger?
I'm going to make it bigger. No, I can do it on my screen. No, the vital is much more developed than the mind. I have said that there are things said there that things are crystallized. That is, they take a form and more precise, a more and more fixed form. The more precise the form, the more fixed it is. In children, it is much more like water. It is not yet in a very concrete and precise form. That is why, moreover, one can have a great influence upon them, for it is still supple, it is not crystallized. One can notice it. It has something malleable about it, as though one were molding butter. However, as soon as they're about 20 or 25, the special disposition, the turn of character is fixed. And at that moment, instead of preventing defects, it becomes necessary to mend them. That is another thing. If one wants to give an education which prevents bad habits from being formed or bad tendencies from being pursued, An education which leads children constantly into the right path that one wants them to follow. Well, when they are small, it is possible. When they become bigger, it becomes hard. One cannot change the imprint easily. Even sometimes it is necessary to break things to be able to change them. As those who are not progressive, who are fixed and remain fixed, who cling with all their strength to their petty habits, um, who cling with all their strength to their petty habits. While the little ones are supple, one can change their opinion, one can make them progress, give them the see
The
that tomorrow,
sense.
the sense that tomorrow one must do better than today. Why does it say see?
It is some system error because in the other volume sense was written as sense, but here it is always skipping the
Oh,
is.
okay. That's it.
Anything to discuss here, or it's all quite clear?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, Ruhi?
I wanted to know how, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I wanted to know how would you, like if a young child has certain, like what would you categorize as you want to change their habits or change their behavior or when they've talked about it, one cannot.
Yeah, we have.
Hmm.
So that's the problem, these days, most parents, not just these days, in Mirambika also I saw it, that people interpret freedom as following the desire.
No, I don't mean that. Like, I mean that, would you mean specific things like what would it specifically mean? I don't mean, I understand that desire and all that and happiness, we discussed that, but like when it says there is another, if you want to give an education which prevents bad habits from being formed or bad tendencies from being pursued, and education will lead children constantly into the right path. Well, when they are
Yeah.
small, it is
Like
possible.
the mother shared about her own childhood. She said whenever I would go to my mother, to complain anything, she would always say, "There are so many more people in the world who are so unfortunate, and you are very privileged, and don't waste your time in these kind of petty complaints and things like that." So, for example, now that's a vital. If we encourage complaints, and every small thing we say, "Huh, this really something bad happened." I know of parents who, if their child has a fight with another child, they step in and they scold the other child and they take it up rather than helping the child rise above it, understanding it, resolving it. For example, I mean, there are innumerable examples one can think of various tendencies in the vital, whether it's fear, whether it is selfishness, whether it is sullenness, blaming others, so many things.
Hmm. Okay, understood. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Yes, so this we'll have to do para by para. Sagarika, you want to take up? Do you understand when you read? If you don't understand while you are reading, I'll ask somebody else to read. Huh?
Yes, yes, I can read.
Okay.
Are bad habits, as for instance, that of not keeping things in order due to the vital? That depends, for example, that depends. For example, children who have no order, who can't keep their things carefully, but lose or spoil them, there are three reasons for this. Most often, it is a child who lacks vitality. When it is like that, when it keep can't keep its things carefully and all is in disorder around it, this is always a sign of a lack of vitality. It does not have it does not have sufficient vitality to take interest in these outer things. The second reason is that It lacks interest in material life, the life of things, and that it has no discipline, doesn't discipline itself. For instance, children, when they undress, throw their clothes all over the place, or else when they have finished playing, they have their toys lying about. When they have written out their homework, everything is littered all around. The fountain pen on one side, the notebook on another, the reader on a third, and then all these get lost. Unfortunately, that's how it is with the great majority of the children here at the school. They lose everything. I have found books reduced to pulp because they had spent the whole night on a flower pot, and it had rained the next morning. When they were found, they were like gruel. When
Hmm.
they are like
Gruel,
gruel.
porridge, like porridge.
Bridge.
Okay, but that is rare. Pencils too. I have a collection of fountain pens and pencils picked up, thus having been lost. These are absolutely undisciplined natures. Those who have no method, and within themselves they don't have any method. And into the bargain they despise things. So, as Sri Aurobindo says, they are not worthy of having them. People who don't know how to deal with with things carefully don't deserve to have them. Sri Aurobindo has often written on this subject in his letters. He has said that if you don't know how to take care of material things, you have no right to have them. Indeed, this shows a kind of selfishness and confusion in the human beings, and it is not a good sign. And then later, when they grow up, some of them cannot keep cupboard in order or a drawer in order. They may be in a room which looks very tidy and very neat outwardly. And then you open a drawer or a cupboard, it is like a battlefield. Everything is pell-mell. You find everything in a jumble. Nothing is arranged. These are people with a poor little head in which ideas lie in the same state as their material object. They have not organized their ideas. They haven't put them in order. They live in a cerebral confusion, and that is a sure sign. I have never met an exception to this rule. People who don't know how to keep their things in order. Their ideas are in disorder in their heads, always. They exist together. The most contradictory ideas are put together, and not through a higher synthesis. Don't you believe it? Simply because of a disorder and an incapacity to organize their ideas. You don't need to speak even for 10 minutes with people if you can manage to entire their room and open the drawers. Sorry, I missed one line. No. You don't need to speak even for 10 minutes with people if you can manage to entire their room
Enter.
and
Enter.
enter their room and open the drawers of their tables and look into their cupboard. You know in what state they are, don't you?
Okay, stop here. Yes, before we read further, uh, I know I at least will try and organize my drawers better tomorrow.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, oh my God, nobody should come and see my drawers.
So, the connection between the physical and the mind, and with the vital playing its role in between, that is what is happening here. Anything to discuss, or we continue reading?
We can continue.
Okay. Who will like to take up? Renu, you want to read? Next
Yes, I
paragraph?
can, Didi.
Yeah, sure.
On the
Uh,
other hand,
Anuradha, before that,
Mm.
can we summarize the 3 points she's given, which can cause these things? She said, now there are 3 reasons for it.
So, one is lack of vitality.
Yeah.
The second reason, lack of interest in material life of things. You consider material things of no importance, and you don't think they have a life. And third is that no discipline, lack of discipline.
So when she says lack of vitality, what does that entail?
Life force.
They are not enthused enough.
No, they are not enthused enough. Yes.
Thank you.
They just can't be bothered to take care of. They might know this is the right thing to do, but they just can't be bothered.
Because most of the people, and especially children that I see, they want a lot of things and they are always asking for. So the second reason is obviously not. So it's probably they ask, but they don't really excite them or interest them, and they just discard them after using or playing or whatever for a very short time.
So that, Nishi, is like what we were talking earlier, parents, how can they intervene to create good habits? This is the problem of plenty, because children know, and what she's saying further on, that if you can't keep a thing properly, you don't deserve it. This is not something parents inculcate. One thing breaks down, or the child throws it, gets spoiled, ill treats it, okay, another one will come. So that kind of, so the child may not lack vitality, might have a lot of vitality, but there is no respect or interest in the material life, the life of things, and there is no discipline.
Yeah. And I think it's the same with a lot of parents. They don't practicing it themselves as well.
Obviously, if they were, then
In terms of buying clothes, in terms of buying shoes and so on. So
the child imbibes first of all, and if it doesn't imbibe, or has their own tendencies, so from earlier life or whatever, then the parents at least try and inculcate it.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, this paragraph.
shall
Renu.
I start, Didi?
Yeah, please.
And there was someone, I shall tell you who afterwards, who had in his room hundreds of books, countless sheets of papers, notebooks, and all sort of things. And so you entered the room and saw books and papers, everything, a whole pile. It was quite full. But if you were unfortunate enough to shift a single little bit of paper um, from its place, he knew it immediately and asked you, who has touched my things? You, when you come in, see so many things that you feel quite lost, and yet each thing had its place. And it was so consciously done, I tell you, that if one, Didi, I think I'm struggling to read it because I'm logged in through my phone.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I have to enlarge it and then I have to
Okay.
shrink it and then only I can read it. So I'm reading it very slow.
Doesn't matter. It's a short
Sure.
para. Carry on.
Who has touched my things? You, when you come to see in so many things that you will feel quite lost. And yet each thing had its place and it was so consciously done. I tell you that if one paper was displaced, for instance, a paper with notes on it or a letter or something else which was taken away from one place and placed it in another with the idea of putting things in order, he used to say, "You have touched my things. You have displaced them and created a disorder in my things." That, of course, was Sri Aurobindo. That means you must not confuse order with poverty. Naturally, if you have a dozen of books and a very limited number of things, it is easier to keep them in order. But what one must succeed in doing it is to put into order and a logic consciousness and a logical consciousness, intelligent order, a countless number of things that ask for a capacity of organization.
Okay, thank you.
Of course,
Oh,
if
oh,
someone is very ill,
Vinu, stop. That's the next para. Somebody else
okay,
will take it up. So, anything quite clear here also? Yeah. So, order doesn't mean your order or my order. Each person has their own order. That order need not be symmetrical or in lines or everything on the shelves or whatever. Whatever it is, the thing is consciousness, that the person is conscious and is in touch with the consciousness of the material things. There is some logic to it, their own logic, which you may not understand at all, and is able to find things immediately, etc., etc. Okay, who's left? Ruhi, have
Yes, yes.
you have
Uh,
read?
no, I haven't read. I'll read.
Go ahead.
That's okay. Okay. Of course, if someone is very ill, has no strength to spare, then that's different. And yet, even here, there are limits. I knew ill people who could tell you, open this drawer, and in the left corner at the back, you will find such and such a thing under such another. The man could not move and take it himself, but he knew very well where it was. But apart from that, the ideal is to have some organization, as for instance, of the kind found in libraries where there are hundreds of thousands of books and where everything is classified. Naturally, it is not done by just one man, but it is a work in which each thing is so well classified that despite all, if you bring a card and say, I want this book, a quarter of an hour later, you have it, or sometimes in 5 minutes. That is organization. And yet there are rooms full of books there. But all this is the result of work perfected by a large number of men, the result of a professional organization. Well, for professional organization, well, for oneself, one must organize one's own things and at the same time one's own ideas in the same way and must know exactly where things are and be able to go straight to them because one's organization is logical. It is your own logic. It may not be your neighbor's logic, not necessarily, it is your own logic. But your organization being logical, you know exactly where a thing is. And as I told you, if that thing is displaced, you know it immediately. And those who can do that are generally those who can put their ideas into order and can also organize their character and begin to have a control over your physical movements. If you take life in that way, truly, it becomes interesting.
Ruhi, I don't know
I
what.
missed the line.
No, there was no physical movement. Can you read this line again, please?
And those who can do that, generally, those who can put their ideas into order and can also organize their character and
and this.
can finally control their movements. And then if you make progress, you succeed in governing your physical life. You begin to have a control over your physical movements. If you take life in that way, truly it becomes interesting. If one lives in a confusion, a disorder, an inner and outer chaos in which everything is mixed up and one is conscious of nothing and still less is master of things, this is not living. This is not living. It is being in a sea of inconscience, being tossed about by the waves, caught by the currents, thrown against rocks, seized again by another wave, and thrown against another rock. And one goes on thus with bruises and blows and bumps. And then should one ask you, why is it like this? I don't know. Why did you do that? I don't know. Why do you think in this way? I don't know. Why did you make that movement? I don't know. All the answers are, I don't know.
Thank you. We got into the acting mode by the end.
Quite
Quite nice though.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything unclear or something to share or say?
Well, I
Yes,
think sometimes it,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I was just going to say that sometimes I think it can work the other way, meaning like here they're talking about how your physical movements, in a way, if you don't have any control of your physical movements, you're actually, it's a reflection of your entire, it's reflecting your thought, right? So sometimes it can work the other way. Like, say, for example, I feel that if, for example, you find that your movements, which are normally quite precise and controlled, are not as precise or as controlled. Say, for example, you stumble more often, or things drop, or you make a couple of mistakes. And I think the idea should work the other way as well, that you should then examine what is happening behind everything to bring those changes about because of the link between the two things.
Yes, of course. The only thing I want to point out, she did not use the word physical movements. She's only talking about the organization part, material organization. Although what you are saying is correct. I mean, elsewhere she's spoken about that any accident, anything that happens, there is a something behind, it is because of the state of consciousness. But
Here, when she says this, like for example,
hmm,
here she said, and those who, oh, one second, one line. It is your own logic. It may not be your neighbor's logic, not necessarily. It is your own logic, but your organization being logical, you know exactly where a thing is. And as I told you, if that thing is displaced, you know it immediately. And those who can do that are generally those who can put their ideas into order, can also organize their character, and can finally control their movements. And then, if you make progress, you succeed in governing your physical life, you begin to have control over your physical movements. That's why I thought that was a link.
okay, right, fine. Pooja, will you take up and finish off these two paras?
Yeah. I just wanted to share that I was very happy reading this because I kind of live like this and feel like patting myself on the back.
Organize everything.
Yeah, because in my house, right from my kitchen drawers to any drawer, I can just, even if I'm not around, I can tell somebody it's in this drawer from the left or from here or where.
Great.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Essentially, there is but one single true reason for living. It is to know oneself. We are here to learn, to learn what we are, why we are here, and what we have to do. And if we don't know that, our life is altogether empty for ourselves and for others. And so generally, it is better to begin early, for there is much to learn. If one wants to learn about life as it is, the world as it is, then really know the why and the how of life. One can begin when very young, from the time one is very, very tiny, before the age of 5. And then when one is 100, he will still be able to learn. So it is interesting. And all the time one can have surprises, always learn something one didn't know, meet with an experience one did not have before, find something one was ignorant of. It is surely very interesting. And the more one knows, the more aware does one become that one has everything to learn. Truly, I can say that only fools believe they know. That indeed is a sure sign. Someone coming and telling you, oh, I know all that. Oh, I know all that. He is immediately sized up.
Okay. It is 6:11. Do you want to take up the last question? Or shall we take it up next time?
We can do it the next time because it's quite long, I think.
Okay, fine. I just wanted to, I forgot to point out where she said about age of 25. Of course, this was, many years ago, many decades ago. Now, I think the age, by the time the character is formed, etc., is not 25, it's much earlier. This thing. As soon as they're 25, the special turn of character is fixed. Now, I think it is much earlier.
I found this quite interesting because now, the recent decades, the study has shown that the development, your full mental and other mental leads, everything else, development is attained and is going on till the age of 25. And that is the time when children, when we expect them to be of a certain, like we have lots of expectations from them because they're doing a lot of things, but they need till the age of 25 to form habits, to have their full their neural pathways running the right way, to have proper executive functioning, organization, and a lot of things. So I found this quite interesting because recent decades have only realized this research, that the brain is still developing till the age of 25.
But then what also about this Gen Z, Alpha kids, Millennium kids? I'm sure it's coming down, down and down age-wise. The maturity part.
I don't know. I was thinking that as far as even our five senses are concerned, I think their refinement is becoming so much lesser. We see but don't see, we listen but don't hear, and all of the senses I could think of.
Yeah, and with Alexa being there, you hardly use all the senses and the movements. Yeah, that's true, the technology. But what Pooja is sharing is, I think, about how science has still says that even today, physiologically, the brain is still developing. So, which means that it can still take imprints before that, interventions, etc. Is that what it?
Yes, yes, because the neural pathways change at the age of 5 to 6, then puberty, and then final at around 25, they kind of get fixed. So our maturity is attained at the age of 25. And all the things that we expect the children to do, we want them to follow time and organization, and the demands of the life, that they somehow, we seem to think that they can outwardly do this, but all the multitasking and whatever, it doesn't really happen, and it takes from 18 to 25 is a big leap.
Anything before we finish?
But yes, what she's saying is also there, that all of that she's saying can help attain and get them into that uh, so that they don't stumble till 25 and then learn. They can start learning if we have a if the parents are setting examples like that and supporting them.
Okay, see you next time then. Yeah, sorry. So let's begin with the question that was left last time. Kirti, please take
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. You have said everyone possesses two opposite tendencies of character, which are like the light and the shadow of the same thing. Why are things made in this way? Can't one have only the light? Yes, if one eliminates the shadow, but it must be eliminated. That does not happen by itself. The world as it is a mixed world. You cannot have an object which gets the light from one side without its causing a shadow on the other. It is like that, and indeed, it is the shadows which make you see the lights. The world is like that, and to have only the light, one must definitely go through the entire discipline necessary for eliminating the shadow. This is what I have explained a little further. I have said that this shadow was like a sign of what you had to conquer in your nature in order to be able to realize what you have come to do. If you have a part to play, a mission to fulfill, you will always carry in yourself the main difficulty preventing you from realizing it, so that you have within your reach the victory you must win. If you had to fight against a difficulty which is everywhere on earth, it would be very difficult. You would need to have a very vast consciousness and a very great power. While if you carry in your own nature just the shadow or defect you must conquer, well, it is there within your reach. You see all the time the effects of this thing and can fight it directly, immediately. It is a very practical organization. You haven't seen in Bulletin the letter of Sri Aurobindo's, the evil, the evil persona. The evil persona, it is like it is in the bulletin. The thing is very well explained there.
We will read the evil persona. Shall we go ahead and read it, or you want to discuss anything here first?
Let's read it first.
Okay. Ila, why don't you take it up?
Okay, where is it? Oh, here. Okay. The evil persona. What you say about the evil persona interests me greatly, as it answers to my consistent experience that a person greatly endowed for the work has, always, or almost always, perhaps one ought not to make a too rigid universal rule about these things, a being attached to him, sometimes appearing like a part of him, which is just the contradiction of the thing he centrally represents in the work to be done. Or, if it is not there at first, not bound to his personality, a force of this kind enters into his environment as soon as he begins his movement to realize. Its business seems to be to oppose, to create stumbling and wrong conditions, in a word, to set before him the whole problem of the work he has started to do. It would seem as if the problem could not, in the occult economy of things, be solved otherwise than by the predestined instrument making the difficulty his own. That would explain many things that seem very disconcerting on the surface. Okay, we need a little bit of explanation here, I think. I mean, it's a horrible thought, actually, to my mind. And I'm
Uh,
not sure I agree.
Things to me, I was just trying to identify my evil persona. I think I'm aware of it, but I would like to focus on it a little more. It would be an interesting exercise for each one of us to focus on what this is, because that is also the clue to what we are supposed to realize in this life. Why have we come upon earth? What is our special mission? Because that will give us the hint. Our greatest difficulty, which in our nature, which always comes up whenever we try and, there's a movement of aspiration and we are full of enthusiasm and we start doing something and then suddenly there is a reversal. What is that movement? What is that quality in us which creates that reversal? And the opposite of it is what we have to realize. That is the power within us.
But is this referring to something which is within us, meaning our natures, or is this referring to things within the environment which get created for you in order for you to, I suppose, in a way, ultimately realize yourself? But like, for example, the stumbling blocks that are created. So those are environmental, right? They're not things which are in your personality.
No,
Those are things which are created for you from the outside, right? So that
no.
means the outer world is conspiring in a way to try and prevent you from doing what you're meant to do so that you can figure out who you are and I suppose eventually do it better.
That's not how I understand it.
Okay.
If we look at this, well, we will have to, unfortunately, in letters on yoga, they haven't given the questions or, put by the sadhaks. They have only given Sri Aurobindo's responses. If we also had the questions of what the sadhaks have actually written to him, it would make things a little more clear. But still, so somebody has written to him talking about evil persona. What they said, we don't know. But he says about his own consistent experience that a person greatly endowed for the work has almost always, so we leave this for the time being. He's just saying don't be rigid about it. But for most of us, always or almost always, a being attached to him. So it is attached to me because it is not the environment which has created it. It is a being attached to me, and the mother calls it the shadow, which is within myself, the light and the shadow. Because I have this possibility for the work, I have been given that quality, that gift, that mission, which I have the power to achieve in this life. But I have also been given its opposite, its roadblock, its the devil's advocate, so to say, the devil along with the angel in me. And something appearing like a part of myself, which is just the contradiction of the thing so I centrally represent in the work I have to do. And most of the times it is already there in the person. But then Sri Aurobindo says if it is not there at first, if it is for some reason not bound to the personality, this force enters. Why does it enter? Because something in me calls it. There might be 5 people doing the same work. It will not enter every person. It will enter only me because that is my mission.
But this is enters his environment, not him.
His environment means my subtle aura, my not environment in the general sense. It enters into me through the subtle environment that I carry because I have an opening for it. And why do I have an opening for it? Because of my predilection, the power which has been given to me. It kind of attracts its shadow. Only that specific. So if there are 5 of us doing the same project, everybody will not have the same difficulty because all of us have to realize something else through this lifetime. So everybody will have a different aspect coming up. And as soon as, let's say, I begin my movement to realize this force comes in, or it is already a part of me, and what is its agenda? To oppose, to create stumbling and wrong conditions. Now, if I'm not aware of this, what happens is I generally give up. I say, oh, circumstances are not favorable. See, everything is opposing it. I'm not meant to do this. Or if I'm feeling I'm having second thoughts, or I'm feeling neglected or unacknowledged, not enough praise, I'm not getting enough support, then I easily take the way out and I say, forget it. This work is not to be done. This is not for me. But suppose I were to instead look at it that this is exactly what I'm supposed to realize. And the difficulties are being created because I have to realize it. Because by overcoming the difficulties, and I have the power to overcome them, to have that faith that the difficulty indicates the power I have to overcome, and therefore I must will that I will not be defeated by these difficulties and I'm going to conquer all this, then the whole problem will be solved and I will progress. It would seem as if the indaka be solved otherwise than by the predestined instrument making the difficulty. So I have to make the difficulty my own, understand it is part of me, and understand, look for the light, that I have its opposite. So these difficulty, the outer things can only be an indication. Like I've sent an email, I'm not getting a response. I sent 5 times, I follow up, no response. These are outer indications. This is not the difficulty. The difficulty is I have to turn within and see what is happening inside. Why are my actions not getting the desired result? What is blocking it? Is there a movement within me of resistance or not fully giving myself to this work? Or what is it? So that is something very, very individual and personal, and only great sincerity and great self awareness and aspiration for progress can help us in this regard. So this is that's why the mother is referring to this passage, because it is the same. Sri Aurobindo calls it evil persona because somebody wrote like that to him. So he has explained it like that. But it is the same principle, the shadow and the light. And their mother explains why shadows are necessary, because the creation as it is now, it's a creation of duality. Wherever there is black, there will be white. Wherever there is white, there will be black. Light, shadow, right, wrong, male, female. This is a creation of duality. So the dual principle will remain till the creation, duality is surpassed, which is the supramental creation. But as long as this creation is there, the law here is duality. The only thing we can do is work on our own shadows. And she says that's why it's been kind of, you've been given only, one set of difficulties. You can't work on the whole world's difficulties. You have that, it is very immediate to you, it is your experience. You can learn to recognize it because it happens within you, and it is easy to recognize for you and to work on it. So gradually you start working towards converting it to light or letting it be consumed by light. That is what I understand from these passages. See here, the original passage was this: life seems to endow everyone not only with the possibility of expressing an ideal, but also with contrary elements, representing in a concrete manner the battle he has to wage and the victory he has to win for the realization to become possible. Otherwise, that realization is not strong, sturdy enough. Only when one has overcome all the challenges to it, then one can say, now the victory is final. Now nothing can shake it. Because everything that could have shaken it, I have faced and overcome. That is the battle.
But Anuradha, I'm not, something is, I mean, I tell you what I'm getting confused by. And that is like, it sounds to me that everything is a struggle. To learn how to do anything or to do anything well, you have to struggle. And while I, at one level, see I can understand that. At another level, I feel that, sometimes when things are meant to go in a certain way, everything falls into place. Things do work. It's not a question of, me struggling all the time. There are some times when I struggle and then I have to give up, even if it's, a struggle within. But I have to give that up because it's not taking me anywhere. And I have to, learn that, okay, this maybe this is not for me. And there are other times when I don't struggle at all and everything falls into place. So this doesn't actually fit both scenarios.
No, it does. You see, what happens is, I think all of us have experienced it, even in little things like you cycle, you run, Harpreet dances, somebody writes, somebody does something else, does weaving, teaching, whatever everybody does. There are moments when there has been a discipline, you have struggled, and acquired that skill or knowledge, experience, whatever. And there are moments when, like you are saying, everything flows. And not just related to my skills, my qualities, it is sometimes even so. To give you an example, once long back, sorry, I'm diverting a little. I was asked to prepare an exhibition on the mother. It was some anniversary of the mother. And Taradi asked me in one of the new buildings to put up an exhibition on the mother. Lots of photos she had. So it was to be in two, three guest house, 2, 3 verandas and all. And she said, choose quotations with it and put it up. And I don't know what happened. Well, later I reflected and I know what happened. But it was an amazing experience. I Not only was it something internal for me, very meditative, it went over days to do that work, but people were coming without me asking anybody. People would just land up, offer to help, just what I was needing, that would come, the right person, the right quotation, everything got managed. And I felt it was because I was in the right state of consciousness, of self giving, and of aspiring and calling to the mother. It is not that only the divine worked, it is also because my skills and everything worked, but my consciousness was like a flower, open, open to receive, and all the help came. So when those moments are there, I'm living from that light aspect in me. But I have not yet conquered the opposite of it. It is a taste of what can be, how my life can be, if I learn to live in the light always, can retain that consciousness always. That possibility I have. But then in other moments, the shadows come, your own doubts, your own ego, your own, and that is what creates the struggle. So we all have experiences like that. If only that were the truth, we will always be sailing like this. So that is also to show us the struggle is there to show us the shadow, but the victory is there to show us the light. And we have to, when we are in the light, we have to say, hang on, I'm still not free of the shadow. So don't just sit back and say, yeah. And same way when you are in the shadow, to say, but not to get depressed, and to say, I have the light, and to remember the light and to call for it. Anybody else would like to share something? Yes, Nishi?
Lots of inspiring food for thought in the sense that I'm just trying to interpret my experiences in a slightly different manner after listening to your experiences. That, when an obstacle comes, it's just to look deeper into it versus a very superficial key. Is it meant for me or it's not meant for me types? Sometimes I think that I think just like Ela said, if there's a lot of difficulty coming in something, like it's just not meant to be, but it may be more than that.
Yeah. And then if you take that attitude, there may come a point when you have tried your best, still nothing is budging, then something within you tells, now ho gaya bas. Now don't try more. It is there, done. Now leave it. If it is meant for you, it will come back, or again that opportunity will arise, or what. So, but that when that answer comes from the mind, it may or may not be right. But when it comes from something deeper within you, most probably it's right. One can never be sure unless one is totally the psychic consciousness that it is right. But whatever level is the highest available to us or the deepest, we have to act from that. Kirti, you want to share anything?
What I feel is that one has to be, I don't know if I'll be able to explain, to discern how to decide whether it's no for me now, or whether I have to, in any which way, I have to overcome this obstacle. So for that kind of discernment, you need a certain kind of attitude, frame of mind, or a psychic level that you have to be in. What you're saying is very clear. But what Ella also said, and I think Nishi also meant that, if I'm correct, that sometimes it's a no-no. You just can't be part of that movement where the obstacles are coming. Maybe your progress lies elsewhere. So I think when that happens, then also you're being carried away.
Like, for example, now forget about the people who are trying to do sadhana. Sometimes when this air crash happened, the Gujarat one, yeah, there are stories, same way there were stories 9/11, and every catastrophe that happens, there are always incidents. You know, somebody misses their bus or misses their, reaches late and is not able to take the flight. Now, if I'm going there and I'm saying, no, I'm meant to take this flight and I will anyhow take this flight, and I don't accept, and I somehow fight and get into it, maybe the divine was protecting me by having me miss the flight, and I just went against it. And somebody who's not doing yoga also, nothing, but they were protected. What protected them, how they got protected, one doesn't know. But psychic is in everyone. So they were protected somehow by a series of circumstances which just saved them. This always happens. So it's a mystery of life, how things operate.
And we just attribute it to luck, that I got lucky.
Nothing is luck. Yeah. सागरिका जी, कुछ बोलना है आपको?
हाँ, कुछ कहने का तो है नहीं, पर मैं फेस करती हूँ मेरे लाइफ में जितने सारे डिफिकल्टीज है। पता नहीं, मतलब सोचती हूँ, पर उसी से मैं निकल आती हूँ। कोई भी किसी तरह से इतनी डिफिकल्टीज, मतलब आई डोंट नो, पर somehow आई कम आउट फ्रॉम दैट डिफिकल्टीज एंड ऑल। मुझे नहीं पता कैसे, आई डोंट नो, पर पर मेरे ये होता है कि शायद मैं प्रे करती हूँ और आई डोंट, मतलब उस समय ये भी नहीं पता होता है कि मैं ये नहीं सोचती हूँ कि कभी कभी कि हाँ, मदर तो है मेरे पास, मैं तो उनके भरोसे में हूँ। नहीं, मदर को बस कॉल करते हो, ऐसा नहीं सोचती हूँ कि मदर जो करेंगे सही करेंगे, और पता नहीं, मतलब उस समय वो थॉट्स नहीं आता है कि अ, माँ कर देंगे। ऐसा थॉट्स भी मुझे ऑनेस्टली, मैं अभी आप जब बोले थे मैं रियलाइज कर रही थी दो सिचुएशन, उस समय वो नहीं फील होता है, पर मैं माँ को कॉल करती थी, मतलब करती हूँ, इवन कोई भी डिफिकल्टीज हो। पर मैं सच में, मतलब इतनी सारी डिफिकल्टीज मैं फेस की हूँ, पर वहां से कहीं ना कहीं रास्ता मुझे सही दिशा में मैं पहुंच चुकी और आ गई हूँ। और वो कैसे, वो नहीं पता। अभी तक मुझे नहीं पता मेरा डेस्टिनेशन क्या है, मैं क्या कर रही हूँ। कभी कभी मैं खुद से उलझ जाती हूँ, मैं क्या कर रही हूँ, कहाँ जाना है मुझे। बस ये जानती हूँ, मुझे माँ की ओर जाना है, बस मुझे मदर के पास जाना है। मुझे मदर मुझे कुछ रास्ता दिखाएंगे, ऑस्ट्रिया रविंद्र के पास जाना है, बस अभी मेरा ये है। और पता नहीं, और इतने सारे तो डिफिकल्टीज सरफेस लेवल वो सब तो मैं फेस कर ही रही हूँ, आगे क्या है नहीं पता। बस मैं अपना डेली का डेली काम कोशिश करती हूँ, उसमें भी इतना कंफ्यूजन हो जाता है, मैं कर क्या रही हूँ इतने सालों से, वही मैं समझ में नहीं आता है, कभी कभी इतनी कंफ्यूज हो जाती हूँ। वो पता नहीं क्या है।
Thank you, Sagarika. What a beautiful share.
Like, if I think about as an entrepreneur, या जो भी मेरे, like there's no plan B, there's plan A. Just stick to it. So in the process, we evolve as a product, we evolve as so many things, but in relationship also, there is no plan B, there is plan A. change yourself, change your attitude, change your perspective. But I think that is what I get it from whatever I listen.
You want to say something? Ruhi, do you want to say something? So this brings us to the close of the vital education.